Hi, my name is Eric Olson, the Director of Helps. This video is going to talk about whether it makes sense for a senior to try to refinance a home. I just got off the phone not long ago with a widow from Florida. She had a home that was worth about $250,000 and she owed about $100,000 on the home. And her payment was $1,000 per month, and her income was $1,700 per month. And I asked her, I said, how can you afford that house payment? And she said, well, that's why I'm calling you is, can I refinance this home? Should I do that? And I said, well, how are you doing it now? And she says, well, I have a couple relatives that are living with me and they're helping with my payment. I said, that's fine. But if they leave, then your payment's still going to be $1,000 a month. And she said, I know, that's why I want to refinance. And I asked her how much interest she was paying. It was like 4%. And I said, well, with good credit, you might be able to get it down and save a couple $100. But, even at $800, you're going to be living on very little money. How are you going to have difficulty making that payment? And she said, yeah, I know. And then a lot of other seniors also with lower incomes may have problems with their credit, and they really may not be able to get be able to refinance their home. And another problem with a refinance is that when you refinance, there are loan fees that are tacked in, and they can be significant, and they're paid over time, but they're still a lot of money. So for this reason, for a lot of seniors, a refinance might not make sense, and especially when a senior has equity in a home. And I'll explain. If you're a senior and you have a house payment that eats up half your budget, sometimes even more, then things can be very difficult, okay? Very tight. But if you have enough equity in your home, there might be another option that makes more sense. And I talk about this option a lot with seniors. I don't let the paralegals that helps talk to people about it because there's so misinformation about this topic. I'll mention it to people and they'll say, no, I don't want that. And then I'll ask them why and they can't give me a reason. And what is that? It's a reverse mortgage. What a reverse mortgage is it's a government program backed by the federal government that allows people to stay in their home forever. They still own the home, they still control it, they can still sell it. Some misinformation about reverse mortgages says if you get a reverse mortgage, you no longer own your home, the bank does. That is not true. But if there's sufficient equity in a home with a reverse mortgage, what it will do is pay off your first mortgage, so you no longer have a house payment. And normally you would maintain the property taxes and insurance yourself, although you can provide that the reverse mortgage, if there's enough equity in your home, the reverse mortgage can pay for your property taxes insurance. So what that means is that you no longer have a house payment anymore. And I'll take this senior, for example. Her income was $1,700. If she got a reverse mortgage, the only thing she'd be required to pay would be her property taxes insurance, which was about $2,400, maybe a little bit more. So an extra $200 a month versus $1,000. Her whole life would change. Now, sometimes people, when I mention a reverse mortgage, they'll say, no, I don't want that. And I'll ask them, and one of the things they'll say, well, I want to leave something for my children. And I can understand that. However, a lot of seniors don't realize that statistically half of seniors and over 65 end their lives up on Medicaid, which means they're in a nursing home. And if they're lower income and they're on Medicaid, the government has a lien on their property, including their home. And so when they pass away, the home would be sold and the government would have to be reimbursed before their kids get anything. So a lot of times I think seniors might eat macaroni and cheese or starve themselves or go without, thinking they're going to leave something for their kids, when in fact the only person they benefited was the federal government, by having equity available in the home to reimburse the government. Whereas if they had a reverse mortgage, things would be a little bit easier for them. So let me explain. So if a senior wanted to leave something for their child, even with a reverse mortgage, what they could do is they could add their children's name onto the home as joint owners with rights of survivorship after a reverse mortgage. Okay, you don't have to have the permission of the bank to do that. You can just do that on your own. It's for estate purposes. So that means that if a senior got a reverse mortgage, had that little extra money to live on, all that pressure would be off them. They could still protect the home for their kids so that whatever equity there is in the home when they pass away will go automatically to the kids. And all the kids would have to pay is the balance owed on the reverse mortgage. But they wouldn't have to pay any debt that the senior owes. So refinancing is not for every senior. Okay, now if a senior has a lot of money, a lot of income, and good credit, then yeah, senior, reverse refinance might make sense. But if a senior is lower income and things are tight already, there might be a better option than refinancing, and that could include a reverse mortgage. And so what helps is we represent seniors and disabled persons in all 50 states who have debt they can't afford to pay. Under federal law, if a person's represented by an attorney, debt collectors can no longer call or send letters to that person anymore. And that's our main mission, is to represent seniors, generally lower income and poor seniors, and disabled persons who owe debt so they don't have to deal with collector harassment. We don't turn anyone away. Our second mission is to educate seniors how they can maintain their financial independence. So that's why I'm doing this video today. Is there's a lot of seniors that have lower income, but they have large equities in their home, and they're making huge house payments, and they don't need to do that. There's another option that's available for them. Now, they could try to refinance if they want. You may not be able to if your credit is poor or if your income is too low. And so in that event, maybe looking at a reverse mortgage might make more sense. I don't sell reverse mortgages. I have no interest to see that anyone gets a reverse mortgage. I know a lot about them, and I tell people about them because it can change a senior's life to have that money available to them or not have to make that house payment. And that's why I want you to know about this. You have a great day.